And I've also heard some kids say that, they were supposed to be taking that Ritalin. Moms would give them the pill, and they'd put it in their mouth. They'd step out the door to go to school and spit it out.
Mm-hmm.
Because it had so many bad side effects.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm sure everybody's concerned about that values our right to own and possess firearms, with the constitutional Second Amendment right. I worry that politically these school shootings are so easily used by the anti-gun factions. All those students after the Florida shooting were going all over the country and, protesting, and they want stiffer gun control laws. I mean, there really is a movement on the part of certain parties or factions to try to reduce the number of guns around and to try to radically limit gun ownership. And I really
the only thing that I've heard is that they would like to make it harder for someone like that kid we were talking about to get a gun. But we wouldn't have stopped it with a law because his mom gave him the gun. He didn't purchase the gun; his mom gave him the gun. And there's so many. Well, with there being more and more guns in the home, well, there's more access to guns now. They said there's more guns in the country now than there are people, and I believe that. But, I believe in being able to protect yourself. I lived in the country for 30 years by myself, and I had to have a gun. Because, if I would have called the cops, it would take them an hour to find me. But, I don't believe that the ordinary citizen has to have an arsenal in their home. Right. I know a man that he used to, he actually graduated with my brother, who's older than me, and he lives in, we'll call it Bum F, Egypt, Arkansas.
Yeah.
And, he has an arsenal in his home. For what? In a town about the size of what I'm living in, about 900 people. Just terrified. Government's coming. They're going. And the the Middle Easterns are coming. And he's just absolutely terrified of everything. And he lives in a town like me. There's no crime here. There's absolutely no crime.
But he isn't alone either. There's a number of people nationwide that, if they are able, are dropping off the grid and going to Idaho, Montana, going out in the boondocks, so to speak, and they're trying to get away from organized civilization. There's more of those type of people than you or I realize.
A lot of them go to Alaska.
Right.
And a lot of them go to Canada.
Yeah.
Of course, a lot of those they've got criminal records, too. A lot of them do.
Yeah, I don't doubt that either. But there's a lot of people that are attempting to, a lot of people don't even like homeowners association, trying to tell them what color they can paint their house. They don't want, these neighborhood. A lot of people don't like it when municipalities try to regulate what they're going to do. And again, this gets back to basic property rights and where do our rights begin? Where do they end? How do we define them? I know of a case in my own city of a man who was in what they call the historical district, and there's something called Main Street here in this city, and there's something called the historical organization. And if your building or your business is within the boundaries of that historical, there's certain things you can't do, or they will attempt to fine you, or they will tell you, no, you can't do that. And what he did, he spent several $1,000s on a chain link fence, and they told him he couldn't have it because that was in the historical district. Well, he fought them, and normally you can't win against City Hall, and he didn't, but it went on for 2 or 3 years, and my dad was still alive at the time, and my dad was one of his supporters, and he had a lot of people who were on his side. That's his property, that's his building, and if he wants to put a chain link fence up, we don't need some artificial organization or entity telling him that he can't. And that's how I feel, and I don't like that, and I do not want to be around. You see, I'm in the process, in my own particular situation, I might have mentioned this before, of selling the building that I'm in. Now, if I relocate, I want to get outside the city limits because I do not want to deal with the city council. I do not want to deal with code enforcement. I don't want to deal with any of that. And so it is my current plan to buy a small acre or two of land and put my building on it. You know, one building to live in, another building for my retail operation in front of it. And if you get outside the city limits and get out in the county, you know, there's none of this. You don't have any of those organizations trying to tell you what to do. So that's what I want to do. And I don't blame people for feeling that way. And I can even understand how some people would carry it to the extent of going to Montana or Idaho or Alaska. Not necessarily criminal people, but just people that don't want local city government telling them what they can and cannot do.
Yeah.
So I do sympathize,
I
understand
with that. You know, fortunately, like I said, I live in a small rural town, you know, in Illinois, and you know, we don't have hardly any rules or regulations here. You're still allowed to burn in a burn barrel if you want to. You know, that's just in most places is almost unheard of. You know. Yeah,
so you can't do that here in my city. You know, you couldn't do that at all. They'd be trying to find you.
This is just well, we're in the country. It's a small town surrounded by cornfields.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, but no, I could never live in some place like Chicago or somewhere like that. You know, it's just good grief, no way.
Well, and you know, one of my previous shows dealt with the violence in Chicago. Dan Patrick was on there that night, and you talked a little about the young man that you met, the student, and just how incredibly violent Chicago has become.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was desperate to get out. He said that, you know, his only other choice was, you know, if he couldn't come back down here, you know, his only other choice was, you know, to sell drugs or join a gang. Of course, that would be basically the same thing, but he said that's your own. He said couldn't get a job up there, not even at McDonald's, and not any McDonald's. And he lived very close, you know, if not downtown Chicago, very close to Chicago. Right. And he said, you know, it's just very disheartening, you know, to not even be able to get a job at McDonald's. So, you know, that's when he had been a friend of mine when I worked with him down here and said, I got a spare room. Come on down, stay with me. You know, I'll help you get set up and we'll get you a job. He got here, first day, he went and applied to McDonald's in a town about 15 miles away, and he got the job, and he came out of there and he cried.
Wow.
He said it felt so, for a young man, he said it felt so good to have a job. And he stayed with me for probably 4 months. And it was just the nicest thing. And you just couldn't imagine, neither one of us could imagine that, you know, one day that, well, gosh, I'm sitting here on a Saturday night watching TV with this you know, 60-year-old white woman, and me sitting there going, well, I can't imagine I'm sitting here, you know, I'm taking in a black border, you know, but we just got along so well. He was a wonderful cook. He helped me around the house. He would mow the yard, you know, and, you know, when he came to me, he didn't have any money. And I helped him get back on his feet. He got a job closer up with the company that we had worked with before, closer up to where he lived. And I gave him the money, put him back on the train, and he went back up there. And he's doing fine now. And it just, you know, not a lot of people, but some people came down on me for that. And it's like, well, I did what I thought that I should do. You know, I was able to do it, and I wanted to do it. And no harm came to me for it, and no harm came to him for it. You know, it just, you know, if you want to get along with people and understand people, you have to take that first step. And that's what he and I both agreed that we were doing. We were taking that first step together.
Oh, that is just wonderful. I'm so glad that was such a positive experience for both of you. And I guess he's still there at McDonald's. Maybe it's been promoted now.
No. He was with me for 4 months. And I had already retired from the where I worked for 38 years. That's how I knew him, because I worked with him for 2 years at McDonald's. Or no, I'm sorry, not McDonald's. At Donnelly's, our Donnelly's.
Right.
And he had gone back to Chicago, and we lost track of each other, and then he contacted me on Facebook and told me his situation, and that's how it all came about. I told him, I said,
you
well,
still,
you know, I said, you know, what?
Still doing
good? We still keep in touch. Yeah, he's working up there now. He's a press operator at R.R. Donnelly's, which is a printing corporation. It's one of the largest in the world, and he's done well. He's got him a place, because before he came to me, he was virtually homeless. You know, and I couldn't imagine he was such a nice man to work with, and we always had such fun together, you know, and I don't know, it was just, to me, it was the right thing to do.
Well, you gave him a new lease on life in a sense. You helped him to get on his feet, to get a new start, and apparently it's worked out very, very well for him. Yeah,
and it didn't hurt me any either. You know, I saw his viewpoint on a lot of different things. We had some arguments about stuff, you know, because, you know, being black and white, we come from different sides of the fence, you know, so we had some arguments about stuff, but, I mean, you know, by and by, I mean, we got along fine. But he said, you know, this is just great. We can sit here and we could virtually talk about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And when he left, he said, when he left, he goes, thank you, Mama.
Y'all just had a neat relationship. I'm so glad that worked out for the both of you.
So what else have you been talking about?
Well, pretty much tonight was the school shooting, and then, of course, it varied off a little bit into economic and political, you know, and then that's pretty much, I'm sure you've been keeping up a lot with the whole North Korea thing.
Not as much as I was, because, you know, I get tired, you know, I turn on and I think, oh gosh, what's new now, you know, and I turn on the TV and it's like, oh, good grief, you know, and so I'm not watching the news as closely as I did. I'm just kind of stepping back and taking a break, because it just seems like, you know, there's just nothing but, I don't know, bad news. And, you know, I'm online on the computer a lot, you know, on Facebook and stuff, and people are just fighting and screaming and carrying on, and, you know, it's breaking up families. It's ridiculous. You know, it's like, good grief, people, it's politics. And there's not a damn thing we can do about it. There's nothing we can do about it. So it does no good to fuss and fight and argue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you don't like what's in there now, well, wait 4 years, you know, vote. But that's the main thing in this country. People are not getting out and voting. I think, what is it, the last percentage that voted, was it something like 35%? It was just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. You know, in this country and other countries, well, they'd kill to be able to vote freely like we do.
And yet we have just this incredible level of apathy.
Oh, yeah. People are just, well, so many don't care. I talk to so many people that, you know, they've got their phone stuck in their face. They don't care. They could care less. Or, you know, they'd rather watch Honey Boo Boo on TV. You know,
mm-hmm.
Just like during all the what do you call it? Oh, the political debates before the election. I watch all of them, but, you know, Republican and Democrat, because I wanted, you know, to have a view of everyone. And, you know, I'd put on Facebook, you know, that night, whatever night it was coming on, hey, the Republican, you know, thing is coming on tonight. Anybody watch? Oh, hell no, I'm not going to watch that crap. Or, you know, they'd make some other comment, or, no, I'd rather watch this show, or, you know, I don't care about. But that's about probably, I don't know, a large percentage of the people. They don't care. They just don't care.
Just tremendous apathy nationwide, yeah, and I don't know how you solve that. I don't know what you do about that. I don't know what the answer to that is.
Well, it's not going to get any better. I just don't feel that it is going to get any better. just so many people, they're so wrapped up in their own lives, which is, understandable. But, that you'll put like a news blog, you'll write it up, put it on Facebook, and people say, really? When did that happen? And it'll be something big. Now, they never turn on the news. They have no earthly idea what's going on in the world. No
a large number of people are not keeping up with national events, or even local events,
Because
I
they don't
understand.
care.
Well, they don't.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Boy, have you seen those pictures coming out of Hawaii?
I have. And that's a tragedy in and of itself, the volcano and the damage to all the properties and the highways and the I imagine there's a tremendous loss of property already. Hopefully, no loss of life. Has there people died during this yet?
I don't think I've heard of anybody dying at all. Just heard that some homes have been I guess you call it sucked under or plowed over, or whatever you want to call it, in the path of the lava. But the pictures are just absolutely incredible. And they said it's possible that Kilauea can blow. And they said if it blows, it's going to probably destroy Hawaii.
Oh yeah. And I don't know if they can evacuate that many people off that big of an island in time. I mean that's going to be a huge logistics problem if it begins to go. I believe I wouldn't want to be there right now. I wouldn't want to wait to find out.
There's certain areas, they've told people to get out, and some people have gotten out, and some people, they interviewed one man tonight, and he refused to leave. He said that, no, hell, he goes, I've been here such and such a years. He says, I'm not leaving my home. But, they may end up having somebody have to go back in and rescue him, if it comes to he's in the path.
An uncle down there at Padre Island who was that way. When a big hurricane would be coming in, everybody else would leave, including his wife, my aunt, and she'd drive as far away as she could get, out of the path of the hurricane. He would stay there and batten down the hatches and nail plywood to the windows, and I mean, he would ride that hurricane out. Now, luckily,
a lot of people did that.
Survived, but I mean, you're just really flirting with disaster when you approach things like that.
Yeah. But we're just, we just, up here in Illinois, we're just, it's just totally flat land, and every once in a while we'll get a little tornado coming through, or we'll get, 2 or 3 feet of snow, but we don't have anything like, what, down there in the flooding, and we don't have the volcanoes, we don't have the tornadic activity, and we don't have
earthquakes in Illinois either, I don't guess.
Yeah, we have had a few. We had one a few years ago that rumbled for about 30 seconds. And I was in bed at the time. And the funny thing is, 20 minutes before that, my dogs had been laying on the floor asleep. And they both jumped up and started barking. They wanted out. And I was like, oh, that's really weird. They never do that. Usually I have to drag them to go outside. But they wanted out. And it wasn't 20 minutes later, I was laid back down in bed. And that earthquake hit. They knew it was coming. They knew it. They felt it before I did.
Well, Terry, I see that coming up on the 8 o'clock hour, so I'm fixing to close out the show. But I want to thank you very much for calling in tonight, and look forward to you calling in again. In the near future, I'm going to do a show about the 50th anniversary of Robert F. Kennedy's assassination. I've been doing some research into that. And some of the things I'll talk about in that show, which we're coming up on about 2 weeks from now, will be the 50th anniversary. It happened on June 5th of 1968, and then, of course, he died on June the 6th, after the brain surgery that was unsuccessful. But many researchers believe more than just Sirhan was involved. Many believe there was a second gunman. And so I'm going to try to explore a little bit of that in my upcoming show that's dealing with that.
All righty.